56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo.
Look up on the wall. There on the wall. Under the wall. Behind the wall.
It was a rout from the get-go, wire to wire. All Memphis. If Dane Danger can play like that every game, if the Tigers can keep the discipline and not turn the ball over, this team really can be good. I mean, I think Ole Miss and this game show you, not to mention UConn, Michigan State. By the way, Michigan State's won 12 games in a row. They're 8th in the country now. And, you know, I thought Memphis totally beat them the whole game. If Memphis gets that kind of play from Danger, and of course from P.J. Haggerty, and they don't turn the ball over, they're disciplined, this team can definitely get to the second weekend of the NCAA. Some of that, of course, will end up what happens the rest of the way. Is there any injuries? But if this team plays like they did yesterday, they're a team that can get to the second weekend. There's no doubt about it in my mind. 5 guys in double figures and 2 with 9, that's balance. It's the best I've ever seen Danger. It's hard to beat 10 out of 12. That is for sure. Only 13 turnovers, and here's the other part. Season high, 24 assists on a season high, 38 buckets made. Fun. And was there a statement to be made by Penny allowing P.J. Carter, who in a Memphis uniform had his best day, 14 points, 5 of 7 shooting, that near the buzzer 3 to make it 100? I asked Penny, did you want P.J. Carter to take that shot? I mean, the game is over. It's like rubbing salt in the wound. He said, absolutely. Yes. This was a statement to be made against the team that was picked ahead of them. And just to let you know, we mean business. And they meant business yesterday. That was really a lot of fun. The NFL games, one was a blowout, one was a thriller. Oh, I feel so sorry for Josh Allen because he just does everything he can. He's such a great player. He's such a gamer. He's so tough. But in the end, the Kansas City Chiefs are the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a little bit like Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods. How many more majors would Phil have won had Tiger Woods not been there? It's a little bit like great players in the Serena Williams tennis era. You only get 4 slams every year, and she keeps winning them all. As good as somebody might be, it's just their era. And that's what's going on with Mahomes and the Chiefs. You realize, and we'll get to this in medals, there's never been a three-peat in the NFL. Every other great team that won 2 Super Bowls in a row never even got a chance to get our third. They never made it to the Super Bowl. So, wow is all I can say, because they got a chance. And by the way, Vegas says they are the favorites. I think it's just 2 points. Is that right, Brian Dacus?
That's right.
I did not see Philly's total domination. I thought they'd win the game, but man, you know, that's what happens when you got balance. And we're going to get to that in medals for sure. We got a busy show. Mike DeCourcy will join us, and we will wrap up college football. Not only Mike, because he writes college football too, as well as where he got his Hall of Fame membership from basketball. But we will talk with John Thompson and put to bed this season, college football and the championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. I'm sitting in the Family Leisure Studios. You've still got a few days. Today's the 27th. I know it's running through January. I don't know if it's going to go on until February. Usually they got like a President's Day sale or something like that. Right now, it's the floor model sale. It will continue for at least 4 more days. And what that means is the 24 inventory, you've heard me say it before, it's got to go because they're bringing in the 25, especially the spring stuff is coming. So they got to move it. And they are really trying to move it along because you can get floor models up to 50% off. I'm talking theater seating up to 75% off. That's amazing. You can get a hot tub with $3,000 off. Pool tables, arcades, ping pong, foosball, all those kinds of things, that's 30 to 60% off. All you got to do is get to I-40 and Whidden Road, ask for Billy, ask for the owner, Lindsay. Tell him we sent you. Tell him how much you like it in there because it is pretty. That's what's going on at Family Leisure. It's where family and fun and a floor model sale are all coming together. So we do a little thing on Mondays. We call it Precious Metals. I got a bunch. I'll start with bronze, and I'll start with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. Barkley over 100 again, a one run that was just spectacular. And Jalen Hurts, he made the comment that Nick Sirianni took the straitjacket off of him, that he was allowed to be free. And he passed the ball. They had really good balance in that game, and it threw Washington off. Of course, I'll get to this in Russ, but Washington helped the Philadelphia cause. And they are in the Super Bowl. So there's 2 Tigers now in the Super Bowl. Kenny Gainwell, who had a concussion, I hope he can play, and Jake Elliott. More on that coming. Also at a bronze, I got to give Zach Edey a bronze medal. Zach the Enforcer, but here's the misnomer. Don't think of him as such. Think of him as an enforcer and a producer. 2 straight games, really good numbers, decent minutes, production with double-digit points. I don't know if some of this is the level of competition that the Grizzlies are playing. They've won 6 games in a row now. Is it that, or is it Edey's catching on to what his role should be, how he's supposed to play it, what is the speed of the game, how he fits into it, and I think he's there. And think about this, a little more than halfway through here, he's catching on. Think what he's going to be like in a year or two. He'll be in a little bit better shape. He'll understand the quickness level better. He'll understand whatever role it is wherever he is, and I'm assuming he's going to be here unless the Grizzlies do something crazy at the trade deadline that none of us are looking for. I think the upside is terrific. I really and truly do. So I give Zach Edey, the enforcer and the producer, a bronze medal. I give a silver medal to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, a chance to three-peat. Again, they are the first team with 2 straight Super Bowl wins to even make it to the Super Bowl. I think 3 of those teams that have done that before didn't even make the playoffs. One, I think, got eliminated in the divisional playoff round. This is something else. And these guys are super, as I mentioned before. It's unfortunate for some NFL teams that are really good teams, in particular Buffalo and Josh Allen. But they've run into the era that is the Kansas City Chiefs. I got to give a silver to the Tigers. I mentioned 24 assists, a season high. The amount of turnovers, 3 in the first half. That was all that they had. Now they got a little sloppier in the second, but a bunch of that was late with second teamers in. If they play with this discipline, as I mentioned before, it's going to be fun. And did you see P.J. Haggerty's stat line in this game? 23 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, almost a double-double, only 2 turnovers, that's been his weakness this year, and 3 steals. While Dane Danger had 21 points, 8 rebounds and a block on 8 of 10 shooting. That's 80%, ladies and gentlemen. And he did it all kinds of ways. He did it with dunks. He did it with left-handed hooks. He did it with right-handed hooks. People don't realize he is ambidextrous. He can use either hand. He's really, I'm I'm feeling so much better about him today than I had before. He didn't do crazy moves like trying to spin and be Penny Hardaway. He did what he could do. He, like the rest of the team, because they didn't turn it over, showed discipline yesterday, did what they could do, and did it well. And I believe Penny probably should get a little nod here, too, because Penny started for the first time in 16 games, Dane Danger. And I don't really think it was for offensive reasons. I think he thought, we're taking on the preseason player of the year, Yaxel Lindeborg. And Yaxel's a very talented player. There are some people that think he can play in the NBA. I kind of think he's a tweener who doesn't shoot well enough to really be an NBA guy, but I think he'll be a pro and he'll make a bunch of money. And I think he's an excellent, maybe even great college player. But if you throw some body at him, if you throw some physicality in, because he can be physical, but Dane Danger proved he can't stop him. He backed him down, and he kept bumping him, and he took away a lot of his game. He ended up with 18 points, but many of those were free throws. He was absolutely beaten down by Dane Danger, which was very good for P.J. Haggerty, because those are the two guys vying for Player of the Year. And if you look after this chapter, P.J. Haggerty has to be the leader in the clubhouse, or not in the clubhouse, leader as we go. So Dane Danger was just terrific on both sides of the floor. And I guess you give a nod to Penny for saying, okay, enough of Cisse starting. We got to put this guy in. And he came through. I'll be very curious to see. Brian Takis, you give me where you think the Tigers will be. Ole Miss lost again. That was to Missouri, a team Memphis beat.
Right.
Okay. UConn lost again. Team Memphis beat. I don't see how those guys are ahead of Memphis. Memphis was, 22 in the coaches and 24 in the AP.
That's right.
Where will they be in about an hour?
I'm going to say number 19. How about that?
I like that pick.
Yeah.
I think that may be right. They
Hope so.
should be above 20.
Yeah.
They absolutely should
so.
be above 20. And now I got two golds. One is to FedEx Forum. 6 games played last week. The home team, the Grizzlies or the Tigers. Grizz win 4, Tigers win 2. FedEx Forum 6-0. A perfect week for the hometown teams. That gets a gold. And my other gold goes to, and I don't know how I can really figure this out. Maybe Brian Dacus can, because he's a great researcher and very quick on the fly here. But I've been counting this up. We've been talking about how Memphis is running back U. Sometimes we've seen they've been linebacker U. I absolutely believe, and until I'm proven wrong, they should be called kicker U. And you know why? You know how many Super Bowls Steven Gostowski kicked in?
A lot, because he was with all those Tom Brady teams.
He kicked in 6 of them.
Wow.
You know how many Jake Elliott's going to have kicked in?
This would be, what, his second?
His second.
Wow.
That is 8 Super Bowls Tiger kickers have kicked in.
It's pretty good.
I don't think anybody can beat that. Is there any other school that has had 8 Super Bowl kicking games? I highly doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt that.
That's
doubt
something.
that.
Yeah,
How about that?
You find some nuggets every
Running
once in a
back U, kicker U, linebacker U. I like it. Maybe
Yeah.
that's just a little bit of everything.
while. There we go.
I will say this. You said 2 Tigers going to the Super Bowl. Make it 3. Bryce Huff also with the Eagles. So that's
yeah.
3 Tigers going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
All with the Eagles, though. So
Has
that's
there
unfortunate.
been another kicker that the Tigers had that might have been in the Super Bowl? I know Steve Allison
know.
won the very first Lou Grosso Award.
Yeah, that's right.
But I don't think he was in the NFL. I know he didn't kick in a Super Bowl.
No, he might have gotten a little time.
Was
but
there a
certainly didn't go
kicker
to
with the
Super Bowl.
Dolphins that the Tigers might have had?
I don't know. That all predates me.
I think it's just the 8 Super Bowls. But
I think
still,
so.
8?
That's a lot. That
8?
is
Come on.
that is a lot. All right, my turn.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start with my bronze, and I have to give my bronze to Albert Pujols. You might be wondering, why am I giving it to
Yes,
Albert Pujols?
I am wondering why the retired former Cardinal and former Redbird.
That's right. Do you know what Albert Pujols is doing right now?
Probably philanthropic something in the Dominican.
He might be doing that. You got the Dominican right. He is a manager in the Dominican Republic Winter League.
Really?
That is correct. And his team is in the World Series right now. Game 7 tonight. I watched Game 6 last night. It was electric. 13-inning game.
Wow.
They lost, unfortunately.
So there's the Game 7.
Game 7
How
tonight.
Many, do they have a national coverage? Do you see the streaming? How do you watch this?
So I'm really excited. The Caribbean Series starts this weekend, which is the champions from all of the countries down there in their winter leagues. They all play against each other. That starts Friday. It's usually on ESPN Plus, Spanish only, but this year it's going to be on MLB Network in English, so very excited about that. But the Dominican League, you can find their winter league games on MLB.TV, which I didn't know until yesterday. So I watched Game 6, and
draw like big crowds.
Yeah, it was a pretty good crowd. They get at it down there. It was fun. I mean, some of the players that were playing, throwback from a couple years ago, guys that are retired, guys that might be on their last leg in MLB, prospects, minor league guys. Very fun. But seeing Albert down there as a manager was fun. Tonight, starting pitcher for his team, Johnny Cueto.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, it should be fun. Winner gets to go to the Caribbean Series, so that gets a bronze for me. 13 innings
Since you were
last
bringing
night.
up announcers, I don't know if you know this. Fox has picked up the Live.
That's right. Yeah.
Do we know who the announcers are going to be there?
I don't, but
is it the Fox? Is it what the CW really was a package from?
That's
Live.
right.
So
I don't know.
Is like David Faraday still going to be a part of that?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll
Just
have to look
curious.
that up. I'll look that up during the break. I'm not. Oh, no. I thought that was. Wait, hold on. What does this say? Actually, I might have found something. From the course to the booth, Pat Perez is shifting from player to on-course analyst for the 2025 season and will also be involved in pre- and post-round coverage as Live enters its first year of its multi-year partnership with Fox. So at least we know Pat Perez is going to be on-course coverage. How about that? So I guess
based on what I've seen from Kevin Kisner in TGL, he should become an announcer.
I think so too.
Because he's pretty good, actually.
I think so too. TGL tonight, Tiger versus Rory, so that should be fun. That gets a bronze. How about that?
That's
bronze.
tonight?
It's tonight, a Monday Night Live or TGL.
They dropped.
All these
they dropped week 3.
It was like a 33% drop. Not very good.
Yeah, it's like 700,000. Can they go over a million because of Tiger and Rory?
Tiger and Rory. I don't know. 5:30 start though tonight, which is kind of a strange.
That's crazy.
Start time.
I don't understand that.
I don't either. They were trying to do it up big. They're like an early start time for the big. I was like, I don't know why you would want to start at 5:30.
Yeah,
but
they're trying to do something to shake it up because it's going down.
Yeah, I don't know. My first silver goes to the Memphis Tigers. What a win for them yesterday over UAB. Dane Danger gets into that starter spot. He was fantastic. They did pretty much everything we had been saying we wanted to see from the Tigers. Won the rebounding battle, limited turnovers. The assists were way up. I thought just a really, really solid game defensively. They were awesome from the opening tip. A really good game for the Tigers. You mentioned Dane Danger. P.J. Haggerty had a really good game. Nicholas Jourdain, I thought, had a really nice game as well. You mentioned P.J. Carter. What he did off the bench was fun to
like
watch.
3 games in a row, P.J. Carter's been a factor.
Yeah, he's been playing really, really well. So they get a silver for me. My second silver goes to the Auburn-Tennessee game. That game was fantastic. Back and forth all night long. Auburn ultimately gets the win, but Tennessee put up a really good fight on the road in a very, very tough environment.
How about the freshman Howard getting dismissed from the team?
Yeah,
in the second half, although not for good, dismissed for that game.
Right.
He's the guy that was in the fight.
He
too.
was,
Really.
yeah.
I don't, he's a good player. He's like 7th or 8th in their rotation, though. Is he worth it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. Some would say that they needed that plane flight. They've been fantastic ever since. Built team camaraderie or whatever they say. My golds, I give one to Kansas City. What a win for them. 3-peat on the way. I'm rooting for Kansas City in the Super Bowl. I hope they win it. I hope they get the 3-peat. It would be fun to see.
I am too.
So that was a good win for them. But on the other side, Josh Allen and that Bills team, you got to give them credit for getting here. But when you run into the dynasty, sometimes hard to beat them. My second gold goes to Vanderbilt. Another upset for Vanderbilt
Oh, I'm
at
glad
home.
you brought that up.
Wow, they are so much fun to watch. Another win, this time over Kentucky. Last weekend, they beat their rival in Tennessee. So now you look at Vanderbilt athletics. They upset Alabama in football, and now in basketball, they've beaten at home Tennessee and Kentucky. What a time to be a Commodore.
Yeah. It's Doors Days, baby.
I mean, it's
It's a
fun.
new dawn.
A new day. It's great. And then my final gold goes to Zach Edey, the enforcer. I did not get to see that game on Saturday. I was on a little bit of a road trip, but I watched it back. And to see Zach Edey not standing down to anybody as a rookie was really fun to watch.
How about getting ready and bracing for
That's
the
right.
shoulder drop, then going after him? The guy backing up,
Eubanks
like
backing out,
a
yeah.
scaredy cat,
Yeah.
and then they tossed him. So, yeah, no,
Wild.
I'm crazy about Zach. All right, two quick rusts. One, the Washington Commanders. I mentioned this. Philly played great, but you cannot give away 4 possessions, especially in some of the field position they did. 4 turnovers. The Commanders did themselves in. You're not winning NFC championships when you turn the ball over 4 times. And then finally, and I'm not sure, honestly, Bryant, who this rush should go to. The SEC has fined Vanderbilt $500,000 for once again storming the court.
Yeah.
Twice now they've done it. The athletic director actually went, before the storming of the court, into the student section and asked the kids, almost begging, please don't
Is that
storm
right?
the court.
Wow.
So he did due diligence.
Wow.
And yet the students actually didn't listen.
Well, I don't know if
they
you
stormed the court.
I don't know if you noticed this. I noticed it, and now that you say that, it makes a lot more sense. But when the game ended, it was almost like a very hesitant storming of the court. Like they were kind of waiting, they were
Right.
holding back. It wasn't just like everyone flood onto the court. And I was like, what are they doing? You just beat Kentucky. Get out there on the court. And then finally they all win. It was almost like a couple weeks ago when Temple beat Memphis. I don't know if you were paying attention to the students when they somewhat stormed the court. Nothing like Vanderbilt.
I didn't really.
It was very
notice that.
subdued, Dave. I mean, I was waiting for him. All right, Temple, you beat a top 25 team. Get out on that court. And it was very, very mellow. And that's kind of what I felt with Vanderbilt.
I might have been so stunned at the Temple
Maybe.
game that I didn't notice that.
Maybe.
But I'm just telling you, is it a rust to the league for finding Vanderbilt? Or is it the security that can't stop these guys after the AD did due diligence?
That's true.
Tried to stop it and the students didn't listen.
Yeah, the security
Or
was
the students,
very
should they get
non-existent.
the rust? Somebody gets a rust.
Somebody, yeah.
I don't know who.
Somebody in that group gets a rust. Maybe they all just get a rust since we can't figure it out. I also have 2 rusts, Dave, and they're both NFL related. My first, and they're actually somehow both Cowboys related. My first rust goes to the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, we had all this build-up about who's going to be the next coach. Could it be Deion Sanders? Could it be one of these other former NFL head coaches? And they go out and promote Brian Schottenheimer, the offensive coordinator, to head coach. I mean, we could have guessed this from the start, Dave.
But he didn't call the plays last year.
That's true. That is a great point, Dave. So I don't really understand the hire. I think this is very much a Jerry saying this guy will do what I say and listen to me hire, and so that's why they made
Bingo!
it. And I hate Jerry Jones for that, but that's life as a Cowboys fan, I guess.
Yeah, this is a dooming pick.
No, it really is. I hated the pick the moment I heard it. My second rust, I don't know if you saw this, Dave. I saw this on social media last night. So the Eagles and the Commanders are playing yesterday, obviously division rivals. And before the game, while tailgating, some of the Eagles and Commanders fans got together, and instead of going at each other, they came together to chant, "Cowboys suck."
Ha!
Do you know how corny you have to be playing in the NFC Championship game and we're on your mind? I mean, we might be down, Dave, right now, but we're always on their mind, just saying.
That's all NFC East. Come on.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, chanting, "Cowboys suck, Cowboys suck," before you're playing in the biggest game? I mean, what are we doing? Made me mad.
Pointing out the obvious, maybe? I don't know. And those are Russ, good and bad. Brought to you by the good folks at Grind City Brewing. Great products, great brewery, great dream a father and son had years ago. And my gosh, has it become a beautiful reality. Go check out Gator Patrol. That's the tangerine cream sour. It's good for any season. Or go and get some of the great beers. Go down and pay a visit. This is a great little field trip. Go down there, check out the brewery. If it's a nice day like today, even, I think it's going to get near 50. You can sit outside and enjoy looking at the city lights, looking at the bridges. It's a really cool location. Grind City. It has really become not just a taste of Memphis, but a place to go and visit. Grind City Brewing. We take a break. We head to Pittsburgh momentarily. Our Hall of Famer from the Sporting News is Mike DeCourcy, and he's on his way.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Moving is stressful, but Black Tie Moving can take the worry out of the process. Whether you're moving across town or across country, moving your home or your office, your personal moving concierge from Black Tie Moving will work with you to design a moving that fully fits your budget and needs. And they're available 24/7 to answer any questions you have. Give Black Tie Moving a call at 901-316-6196 or go to blacktie.com/Memphis to get your personal, no obligation quote from the moving experts at Black Tie Moving.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. Babbel is designed with you in mind. From expert-created lessons to conversational video units and even live classes, you can personalize your Babbel experience to be exactly what you need to really learn a new language more easily. Go ahead, set a goal for yourself. Accomplish it with Babbel. Try Babbel for free. Go to BABBEL.com. That's Babbel.com.
Hey everybody, best thing about a new year is getting something new to drive. So I'm out here at Olive Branch at All-Star Chevrolet where all the Silverados are. Get $1,500 in extra savings when you trade in a 2011 or newer passenger car or light duty truck. 1.9 financing on new Blazers or 2.9 with no payments for 90 days on a new Equinox. Yes, you can be payment free until April and your good credit deserves it. If you're law enforcement, first responder, healthcare, military, education, recent grad, you get another $500 off. So let's go, because no one has a certified and pre-owned selection like All-Star Chevy. Silverado, Sierra trucks, Nissans, Toyotas, Fords, Jeeps. I mean, you gotta test drive this red Corvette Stingray. And if you got any vehicle you want to sell, bring it here to All-Star Chevy in Olive Branch and get the most money for it today. Together, let's drive to All-Star Chevy's Fresh Start Sale, going on now in Olive Branch, or go to allstarautogroup.com.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo.
All we hear is Radio Gaga.
We head to Pittsburgh. Our friend, the Hall of Famer from the Sporting News, Mike DeCourcy, joins us now. Before we get to college basketball, let's put to bed the college football season. We're going to talk with John Thompson, officially put it to rest here at the end of the program. But Ohio State, Notre Dame, TV rankings were down. Mike DeCourcy always gives us a little different perspective on things. Is the season too long? Are there too many games? Is there NIL fatigue? Why was the CFP championship game with two brands, Notre Dame and Ohio State, why was it down double-digit percentages? Good morning.
Good morning, Dave. My understanding is that NFL ratings are down as well.
Yeah, they are
for the playoffs. I look at it as there are probably consequences from a viewership standpoint to the inauguration and the change in power and all of that. But I look at the college football playoff as, if you add it up, over 200 million people watched the 11 games that were played. Over 200 million people watching college football. We've never had a number anywhere near that. A year ago, I think it was close to 60 million would have watched the 3 games played. So it may be the same 40 million people or whatever watching 5 times or whatever it is, but That's a lot of people. That's a lot of eyeballs on college football, and that generates a lot of income, as well as it creating the first ever legitimate champion. Not we think these are the best teams. Not we voted them number one. None of that nonsense. This was everybody got on a field and somebody proved it.
And by the way, I think it was either 21 or 22 million. I can't remember the total viewership. But that was still, even though it was down double-digit %, that was still the number one watched television program besides the NFL. So you could say a little diminished, but still those numbers are enticing to advertisers. And I don't think it's going to go away. I don't know if they rethink expansion of the playoff because of that. But the numbers, as you said, 200 million, leads you to believe they wouldn't.
I don't know that you need 14 teams. I think 12 is a pretty fair number. I don't know what 14 would get us to that wasn't already on the field now. It's certainly not going to bring in any likely champion that's missing now, absent because of the number being restricted to 12. And it also, it's not long-term going to have any significant impact on the schools, on the leagues that are going to place the most teams in. Okay, so this time the SEC only got 3. Dave, you know that's cyclical. Right. Next year it'll be 4. There'll be years when it's possible for the SEC or Big Ten, more likely the SEC, to get 5. I went through this when they were having a meeting. The two leagues were having a meeting, and a lot of people were worried about what might come out of it. And one of the things that was suggested might come out of it was a guarantee of 4 bids each for
right.
the
both
SEC
leagues.
and Big Ten. Yes. And I can't hate that concept more.
You and me both.
Because it takes away all the drama that goes into the game that are being played. And drama is what this is supposed to be about. They're going to get an average of 4. As long as the number at 12, they're going to get an average of 4 over a 10-year period, and in some years will supersede that. And if they go to 14, they're going to get 4 almost every year.
I'm worried, since you brought it up, I'm worried about that meeting. They got another one in February. What are they going to try to do there? That concept of the 4-4 guaranteed, or take their game and run away and form their own Super League? What do you think is going to happen in February?
There's a lot of conversation about that. But think about everything that's happened to date in college sports has been about one thing, and that is this makes us more money. And they have done some things to rivalries and put more travel in and all that, but it always has led to more money. Okay, so right now, if you said, and I've never believed that this was likely because it's so antithetical to that concept, which is, okay, so if the SEC and Big Ten said, we're just going to do our own thing, we're going to have our own championship. Okay, so that takes all of the ACC and all of the Big 12, and, of course, everybody that's in the group of 5, et cetera. And it takes all their fans and puts them into an antagonistic position. It says, you kicked us out. Why would we watch your product? Now, some might eventually wear down and go ahead and watch it because it's a great game or whatever. But you're basically turning out of your market of potentially, 150 million people. You're taking... let's say you're taking about 60% of that and saying you're out. So why would you limit your market that way? As it stands now, they have expanded the market. They certainly, we already have the ACC and Big 12 firmly in, but now they've even added that spot for the group of 5 teams, which I lobbied for years, because it brings all of those leagues and teams. That's a lot of people who love those teams, who went to those schools. I lived in Memphis for 4 years, and I know how much Tigers fans love the Tigers. And you don't want to tell them you're not welcome, because what are the Tigers fans going to say? They're going to say, then we're not interested.
Yeah, I that makes total sense to me, and I hope that is what the Big Ten and the SEC say, because from my vantage point, the SEC and the Big Ten are very greedy about themselves, not necessarily the betterment of all in the game. So we'll see. You have done a nice thing on sportingnews.com where you gave your sort of midterm overall view of college basketball. Some interesting things. And since you just brought it up already, travel. I am curious, as you were looking this thing over, I've heard in the NBA for years from gambling lines and things of that nature. Travel 2 time zones, and it's difficult. How has travel thus far, particularly in the 2 leagues with the most travel, the Big Ten and the ACC, how has it affected basketball?
Well, less than maybe people might have thought. It hasn't. It has had an impact. I think it would be silly to say it has not. But I don't know that it's been as profound as the suggestions would be. For instance, Purdue was able to go to Oregon. Purdue in the Eastern time zone. Everybody thinks Indiana's in the Midwest, the Central time zone. I learned that over the years,
right? Talking
to radio producers.
Doesn't Indy it never
not
changes?
Anymore. Not anymore. It stopped the early 2000s, I think, if I remember correctly. I was caught by that a few times over the years, but it doesn't do that any longer. But anyway, they went from the Eastern to Pacific, and they were able to win on Oregon's home court. So we've seen that. We saw Michigan go out to UCLA and get a win. So those are 2 examples. Stanford, I believe, went all the way from Palo Alto to Chapel Hill and pulled a significant ACC upset. So it's possible to do those things. It's not as easy as it is to tonight, UCLA will travel down, I believe, the Santa Monica Highway to USC to play. That can be a rough trip too. I've made that one on tough days, but it's not the same as flying cross country. So it is different, but I think it also has opened up games like that. The idea of Oregon playing Purdue and Michigan playing UCLA, it's brought us some variety. Arizona and Kansas are going to play at some point. Those are pretty cool games, and so I think that it's added more than it's subtracted to the college athletic scene.
SEC greatness, we've talked about it here before. It's maybe the deepest league we've ever seen, and you back that up with some interesting numbers here. The best team in terms of bids in the NCAA, 2011 Big East. Can we compare these 2 leagues, 24-25 SEC to that 11 Big East?
This SEC is having a better season today by far than that Big East. And there are a number of ways to look at it. First of all, there's the fact that Big East that placed 11 teams in, they had 5 teams that had almost, I had the numbers on this, I don't have it handy, they had almost no wins against the upper 11, the ones that made the tournament. They had almost no wins against them. And that was an advantage in some ways for the Big East because it almost assured that the 11 that were really good were not going to take the bad losses that put your NCAA tournament bid in jeopardy. You don't see that cooperation, so to speak. Cooperation in quotation marks, by the way, in the SEC. Arkansas just took out Georgia last week. Arkansas may consider itself still to be fighting for a bid, but I can tell you this. I mean, in 2011, Seton Hall wasn't thinking about that at this time of year. They were thinking about, can we just win a game? So it's different in this SEC. They are better. Now, what ultimately happened with the Big East is they didn't perform that well in the NCAA. I believe, if I remember correctly, they only got 2 teams in the Sweet 16, and they got there by playing other Big East teams. UConn beat Cincinnati. Marquette beat Syracuse. So those 2 got to the Sweet 16, and I think they were the only ones that got there. But UConn claimed the ultimate prize. So that's what everybody in the SEC wants, is not just to get 12 teams in and set a record, or maybe 13, but they want to be there on the second weekend and the third.
I'll be shocked if there's not more than 2 teams from the SEC in the Sweet 16. I would, you'd knock me over.
I agree with you, but you got to win them.
Yeah, okay. All right, last thing. I found it interesting. Michigan State's now won 12 in a row. They're 8th in the country. They've only lost twice. Oh, one of those is to the Tigers, by the way. And Memphis pretty well handled them the whole game. That was not a fluky kind of a win. Some would make the argument UConn might have been. The reason I bring this up is that you made this point. So many teams, especially in the league that I have seen, and even with SEC teams, so many teams have so many transfers, half the team in a lot of cases. Not Michigan State. Only 2 transfers on that team that's now number 8 in the country. So I guess they're proving you can win by taking high school players and develop them. Or is that the anomaly? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I mean, it may be the anomaly, but you can do it, is the point. Purdue made the national championship game last year doing that. And to be honest with you, UConn is still doing that. I mean, they won their 2 championships with mostly players that they had recruited and developed. There were players like Tristan Newton, the point guard on the 2 teams that won it, that were transfers. Cam Spencer came in last year, replaced. They lost 2 wings to the NBA. He replaced one of them, and they were able to win. But most of that team, most of the primary parts of that rotation were high school prospects that they recruited and developed. So I think that you absolutely can still do it that way. And the idea that you can't is the 2 teams that played for it last year, the 2 teams that are leading the Big Ten now. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong, and I really don't believe there's anything wrong with building your team through the transfer portal, as long as you build it with the right guys and they buy in. But I also don't think that we should dismiss the notion that guys can come in as high school prospects, develop, buy in, get accustomed to the system, and want to stay. Now, in order to stay, they're probably going to need to be compensated. And I will say, however it's happened at Michigan State and Purdue, their retention rates have been astonishing. They had a kid named Xavier Booker, who's a sophomore there now, who was a McDonald's All-American, top 15, all that stuff, and played a very limited role a year ago on a very frustrating and disappointing team. And he's still there. And he's still not starting. And he's playing 18, 20 minutes a game and making a difference now on a very, very good team. But he's not an overwhelming dominant star, and they're not granting him 30 minutes a game to try to prove he is. He's earning what he gets, and he's getting what he earns. And that's the way Izzo continues to do it.
I'd be curious to see what their NIL budget is. You know, I would love to see if this comes. Most of this is not public, but if you could match NIL budgets with wins, losses, advancement into the tournament later, it would be a very interesting study.
Yes, it would.
As always, my friend, I love chatting with you. Thank you much. We'll do it again next Monday.
Thanks, Dave. It was a pleasure.
You got it. That's Mike DeCourcy. He is our Hall of Famer from the Sporting News, and he's brought to you by Southern Security. Are you getting the lowest possible rate on your mortgage? Southern Security, they offer low rates, flexible terms, no PMI, and, as always, unbeatable service. You can refinance your current mortgage with the Mid-South's best mortgage leader. For more information, visit online at southernsecurity.org or call the office. You can actually talk to a human being to become part of the family, 901-452-7900. Southern Security is an equal housing lender. Southern Security is a proud supporter of U of M Athletics and 901 Women. Southern Security is your home team credit union, federally insured by NCUA. We pause for a second. We'll put college football to bed as we travel to Atlanta to talk to our coach, John Thompson, who is next.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Briggs Powder Coating for a beautiful finish every time. Briggs Powder Coating specializes in automotive ornamental
ingredients.
Wow, you look amazing. What have you been doing?
I'm sure you've heard of Ozempic, Wegovy, and the other GLP-1 medications, right? Well, I found this great company called Zelfie. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe medications like Ozempic and Wegovy and other GLP-1 medications that are 80 to 90% less expensive, all 100% online.
I can get GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% less and do it all online? No doctor's office or pharmacy?
Yes, Zelfie can provide semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s, but for 80 to 90% less and shipped directly to your door.
How do I get started with Zelfie?
Just send them a text.
Text CARE to 200-300 to get started today with Zelfie. Get the same active ingredients in Wegovy or Ozempic, but for 80 to 90% less and 100% online. Don't wait. Text CARE to 200-300 right now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text CARE to 200-300. That's CARE to 200-300. CARE to 200-300.
Hey, folks, no time to wait. It's here, the 36th annual January sale going on now at Sunrise Buick GMC in Wolf Case. Didn't get what you wanted for the holidays? That's okay. Now's the time to take care of you. Are you 100% happy with your car? Now's the time to get you a new ride. Huge rebates, big discounts, low interest rates, and no Sunrise, divorce, low pages, no credit. It's all okay at Sunrise.
Sad day indeed. We say so long to our friend John Thompson as we put to rest this year's college football season. John Thompson, you've been consistent all year long. When you predicted a winner, it usually went the other way. Good morning.
I think I was 100% in the playoffs. So
last time.
Come on, like
Hold on.
Like that was a eulogy. You came on like that was a eulogy about all of that.
Well, you're done for the year. You've got a lifetime contract with me, so it really that part doesn't matter. But here's the deal.
What's up?
Absolutely predicted Notre Dame would win, and you know why Notre Dame would win? Al Golden, the defensive coordinator,
what I thought.
who, by the way, is gone. He's leaving for Cincinnati.
I know it. I think he left that night because they could not play zone and they could not play man. They could not play combination of man and zone. Ohio State, no question, was superior. They were the better team, and it was a physical mismatch in the passing game, and it was a physical mismatch in the running game. It was that simple. That simple. Notre Dame played good, played well, but you got to win your one-on-ones, and I'm not sure Notre Dame, besides the first drive after that, I'm not sure they won many of them at all.
You think Notre Dame actually just was very fortunate in the bracket they got sent in? They played Indiana at first. They played a Georgia team that didn't have a quarterback. Or is just Ohio State that much better than everybody else? Let's not forget, Ohio State lost twice this year.
I know it. And then Ohio State, played with a huge boulder on their shoulder. They circled the wagons. Whatever Ryan Day did to get that team back after, the devastating loss of Michigan, and there's still people in Ohio and the followers of Ohio State are saying we won the national championship, but we lost to Michigan. But it's during the tournament, during the playoffs. Everybody that they played, they were just the superior team, and the superior team physically. I don't think they tremendously out-schemed anybody. You get a receiver like Jeremiah Smith. You get running backs that came like Judkins and those guys that all played so well in the playoffs. They were the best team. It's that simple. And anybody that couldn't see that after 9 minutes of the first quarter, well, it was just it was dominant football after that.
So happy for Ryan Day. The only team that he hasn't been able to beat is Michigan. That's the one team that those fans can't accept. It's pretty amazing
that'll
to
be
me.
a big game next year. Think that might be a big game. Might get a little bit of potential.
But here's the deal: he won a national championship. I think that trumps absolutely everything. And it kind of reminds me, earlier this year, Philadelphia Eagles fans wanted Nick Sirianni gone, and now they're in the Super Bowl representing the NFC, and these guys at Ohio State wanted him gone. If they didn't beat Tennessee, he might be gone, and now he's a national champion.
Yeah, I know it. I think that you got to give him credit for pulling that team with all the naysayers, with all the negativity around that. I mean, maybe that galvanized that team. It certainly didn't help with all the backlash from the fans and all that. But hey, you got to remember that was a high priced team that they that they were playing with, and they came through. Everybody played well. I mean, all phases. I mean, we mentioned the running backs, wide receivers, their offensive line absolutely dominated during the playoffs, and their defense was just manhandling people. Just manhandling them, and they played so many guys, and so it was if you're an Ohio State fan, you had to enjoy that. Just the pure, and I keep saying it, the pure physical dominance that they put on everybody that they played.
I just love it as a college football fan that they played it out on the field. We got to see who the best team was. Absolutely, without a question.
Nobody can question who the best team was this year. That's exactly right.
But we can ask this. The numbers, television rating-wise, were down. And they were down double-digit percentage. However, that was still the most-watched non-NFL game on television all year, the most-watched event all year besides the NFL. So that is still pretty darn good. But it does make you ask yourself, is the season too long? Were there too many games in the playoff? Is there NIL fatigue, I like to say, because now so many donors are being asked on so many fronts to give money to players in a sport that are really no longer college athletes, they're pros. What do you think was wrong? Why is it down? And what do you do to fix it?
Well, that's some pretty. If I could answer those questions, I might be on WHBQ, or maybe even during the spring.
Or you'd be rich, one or the other.
Yeah, but there's so many factors that do go into that. One, I think the loyalty factor of just getting an eyeball on a team or going to a game is so down. It's so expensive. Because of the collectives, the NIL, which are two opposite, or not opposite, but they're two different things. It's supposed to be NIL, but now it's turned to collective. You got players coming and going, so there's no loyalty there. So when your team looks bad or plays a bad game, you flip it to find something that's more interesting because there's no loyalty involved in that. There's got to get some regulations 100% based on that. There's no rules. Nobody is going by the rules in recruiting, in NIL or collective. That's happening, and I do think that the season is too long. 16 games is a long time. We played 13 games in high school, and we could have played 15. We had which is too long. We started practice at the last weekend in July, and colleges did too, maybe at the same time. We finished the first week in December. They finished almost the middle of January. That is too long. It's too much wear and tear. We talked about the physicality of these leagues. The SEC, the Big Ten, they're brutal. They are brutal leagues. You get down on the sideline and you see a lot of blood and snot and slobber and really physical action. And I don't think the body, especially at 21, 22, is set up for 16 games.
Would you drop a regular season game? Would you drop the championship league games? Both? What would you do?
I don't. It's just because you start taking away from the rest of the thing. I don't know. I don't. I wish there were more. I loved the playoffs, but I didn't have a dog in the hunt. I loved watching every single game of the playoffs. Now there were some that the way it was set up, was Indiana one of the best 12 teams? Probably not. Was Clemson one of the best 12? Probably not. There were some others. There were some other teams that you would have put in there, but that just stretches it out that much longer, and then you get it where it's week to week to week, and there's no recovery. People forget in this game recovery is just as valuable as hard work. You go down and you have a physical practice, then that's valuable in football, but also having a couple of days rest is very valuable in football. Look at how the NFL, and it's a young league now. Look at how fast those guys play but look at how much they're getting beat up. And you saw it yesterday. You saw guys wobbling around there in the offense and defensive lines because they keep playing. There's no break for them, and now they're playing 18, 19 games. I just think that's way too much on the precious few that end up playing that many. But why take away? I don't think it's fair. You take away from a team that's having a good year. Say, okay, you can only play 10 games because we want Ohio State. They may have to play 12 to 14. Not equitable. So if I tell you what, if you name me the czar instead of Saban, I'll come up with a solution.
I love it. You're my man. I'll do that. I'm sad I won't be talking to you next Monday, but we'll pick it up again next August. Thank you so much for being with us all year long. We appreciate you.
It has been my pleasure, man. Thank you for having me, and I hope we made the game better for some people. That is my only hope, and the studying and the talking that we do is a blast for me. I love talking about it, and hope things go well.
You did it, my friend. Thank you much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Davey.
That is our coach. That is John Thompson down in Atlanta. Tomorrow, we will talk Super Bowl and the playoffs from this past week and the NFL season. Jeff Moore will be in studio tomorrow. And then our new segment on Tuesday, we'll talk SEC and Volunteers, because the voice of the Tennessee Vols, Bob Kessling, now will be with us on Tuesdays in that time slot. That does it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Johnny Radio is right around the corner.